Welcome to She Knows It with
Alex
and Izzie. Today we're going to be talking about things we wish we knew as teens. So we're going to be covering a lot of different kind of areas of advice for that we wish we would have known as teenagers, but also if you are a teen watching this, that you might need. So
yeah.
And
for clarification, we are both 20. I'm almost 21. So we're a little bit out of the teens, but we're still pretty fresh out of the teens.
We're fresh adults.
We can kind of be like, oh, okay, I wish I knew that. Even like 19, there's stuff I wish I knew at 19 that I did differently. Or at least was aware of. But I think mainly we'll be talking about like early teens, mid-teens. Because I think that's mainly where a lot of advice would be useful, I guess. And granted, this is a girlies podcast. This is our opinion.
It is.
Covering all our bases. These are our opinions. And you can take them or leave us a comment of your own opinions and takes or things you wish you knew as a teen.
Yeah. And if you are a teen currently, let us know if there's anything that you want advice on or things that you want more help navigating, because I know when I was a teen I would have loved to have like early adult individuals that like I felt like I related to in some way, shape, or form to give me advice on things I was navigating, because your teen years are crazy. Teen years are so draining and you're going through so much change. You're typically going through some of your first committed relationships, not always, but sometimes. Sometimes you are coming to terms with your sexuality. There's just like so many different facets of it. There's familial stuff. There's a ton to go through. So we're going to start with some relationship stuff we wish we would have known. Would you like to start us off?
Okay, my biggest thing I wish I knew, and if you watched our Pick Me Girl episode, you'll kind of be able to tie this in, but definitely something I wish I knew, particularly around the 13 to 15 age range, was don't be desperate for a relationship, platonic or romantic. Because I think especially if you're in a environment that is very cliquey, such as like mine was ballet in school, it's really hard to not be desperate for a friendship or for a connection of any kind, and that can put you in a lot of toxic situations. That can put you in some really draining situations, even sometimes like unsafe situations, just because you want a friend, right? So I think advice I would want to have given myself at that time in my life was to not be desperate for a friend and then focus on that one friend that's constantly there for you. Yeah. I'd say that.
Yeah.
That's kind of just jumping right into like really deep topics.
Yeah. But like genuinely, like it's something that I wish I would have known too, is like don't be desperate for friends. Don't be desperate for relationships, like platonic and romantic, because it really like it's so easy to give into that like kind of peer pressure, like societal pressure of like, oh, I need to be in my first committed relationship, I need to have a best friend, I need to have a friend group. Like it's like there's so much pressure to have this like picturesque outside view, and I think that's even more heightened with social media like nowadays. Like when I was a teenager, even, it was like I knew people that were friends just so they could post an Instagram post together, and that's wild. You know, if you're true friends, if you have barely any good photos together.
Yep.
which is us, which we're long distance, so like that's part of it, of course.
I think we have like what, 3 maybe 4 really good pictures of us together,
and even then I'm like
yeah,
you
even
know?
then they're like, oh, it's like that one really embarrassing like happy birthday post that you might post, but like it's a close friend only, and then you include those photos of your best friend.
Yeah. Like we need to do a photo shoot next time we're together, just so that we have some cute ones, especially because we're doing the podcast now. We could take some we can like do like season 2 of She Knows It and do like a photo shoot and give it a revamp.
IRL content for like Maybe it's like a YouTube exclusive IRL contest,
That'd
especially if we
be
do
so
like the Ren Fair.
cute. Oh my God. We need to talk more about that. Because, okay,
Like,
we're thinking of going to a
yeah.
Renaissance fair,
Hmm.
us and our boyfriends. And, or, I say boyfriend, it's fine. Us and our boyfriends.
It's yeah.
They know
She's
I'm
engaged,
engaged.
but
But it's,
boyfriend,
yeah.
yeah.
Our
They're interchangeable
partners.
at that point.
Our partners. Us and our howdy partners. Uh, we're thinking of going to a Ren fair. And so I feel like that'd be
Mhm.
so fun to vlog the
I
Ren
think it would be really
fair.
cute. Yeah.
Yeah, which we need to talk more about, like us all talking in depth about details
Mhm.
about that soon because it's gonna come up before we know it.
Yeah, girl.
But yeah, so okay,
It's
so
like
I guess wait, go ahead, you're good.
I'm like really like close. Like I feel like we just started June, but it's like
I know, I know.
that's scary.
Yeah, it's scary. Time is
Anyways,
flying. Also, to address also another little thing before I give my other little tidbit of advice for relationships, your new mic. You
yes.
have a
Okay,
new
so I got a new
microphone.
mic. I know. Let me know how you guys like the sound of it. And if you want me to tweak anything, I can tweak it. I think I kind of set it up a bit good. I might increase the bass just a little bit more, so it's
Hmm.
not as bright sounding. It's a little bit more like bassy, I guess, just to, like smooth listening. Trying to be like one of those like
Audio engineer, like
smooth. Yeah.
we're actually radio hosts and we want to have a smooth
Right,
we
exactly.
want to
With
have a
that game radio
smooth
frequency, I'm trying to
jazz.
sound like that,
Killer
you know?
Frequency is so good.
Yeah.
Oh my God, literally I am going to play that on my gaming channel in a couple weeks. That's actually really funny that you bring
Yeah.
that up.
I love Killer Frequency. Also because like, you know me, I like a good guy in a mask. I do. I do.
Period. Period.
I do.
That's honestly kind of the vibe. Like, so okay, little tangent, real quick.
Yeah, so sorry. We're on like
Me and
a big thing here.
Alex and I, we have a lot of creative ideas together. We've always just been the type to share a lot of ideas and share a lot of creative outlets with one another in
Mhm.
many ways, shapes, and forms. And I'm right now practicing game development, and so we've been talking about like, oh my God, what if we wrote like a game story together? And like, I love the aesthetic of Killer Frequency. That I feel like we could make a really cool game in that like aesthetic.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
And also the story of Killer Frequency I really love.
Same. I feel like we could do the the idea that we were talking about for being a
Yeah.
video game. We could easily do that in that kind of vibe.
Yeah.
Really cool game
Sounds
idea. Like genuinely, I'm
Yeah.
so excited to be able to program something like that.
Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, so back onto
Yeah.
track. What is one
Back
thing
on track.
you wish you could do?
Okay, so
New
my
Year.
yeah, so I guess besides obviously like don't force it, don't be desperate for friends or significant others. I would probably say some good relationship advice that I wish I would have known is you always hear that communication is important, and it is. It is very important to have open communication with your friends and your significant others. But
Mhm.
it's also important to remember that not everyone has as good of communication as you do. Because if you're actively trying to communicate with someone who does not want to communicate with you, you
Mhm.
can't, you're talking to a wall. There's nothing you can do. Like, and I experienced that with some friends when I was a teenager, and felt like I felt like I must not be communicating well enough, or I must not be communicating how I feel, because obviously if they knew how I feel, then they'd want to talk about it. It's like some people aren't good at talking about things, especially in teen years. It's like very hit or miss who is willing to open up and be vulnerable. Like,
Yeah.
I think that like our friendship got strong, like really strong when we opened up and became vulnerable to one another more. Because I think that that's incredibly important in relationships, is to be able to be honest with one another.
Yeah.
And I have friends that like they're not my friends anymore because like they weren't able to have that honesty and communication with me, and it was really hard to work through bumps that it became like, well, I was like, okay, I'll let them come to me when they're ready, and they never did. And it's like, okay,
Yeah.
well, I'm not gonna chase after them. I had to learn that the hard way, that you can't chase after friendship. You have to just It has to be equal. And it's okay to initiate. Like, it's okay to initiate, like, oh, I want to hang out with you. Oh, I want to do this. I want to do that. But, like, if you notice that, like, there's not an enthusiasm met by the other person, or a sense of
Or
honesty.
only one wanting to hang out,
Yeah.
it's never reciprocated, then
Yeah.
yeah,
Which can hurt because it's like, oh, I want to have a best friend that cares as
rejection.
much for me as I care for them. And
It's
it's
rejection.
hard. It's rejection. Yeah. Rejection is incredibly hard to deal
Right.
with.
Especially at that age, like young
Mm-hmm.
teens, rejection, I think that's also something else. I don't know if we'll include it in a topic and like broaden it later on in the episode,
Yeah.
but learning how to deal with rejection is something I think a lot of young teens need to hear.
Mm-hmm.
Because a lot of times they either just internalize it or they become reactive to it, which both aren't good.
Yeah.
Big sister here, or younger sister if you're listening to this and you're older.
Yeah. This is good advice for
Becoming
anyone, to be
reactive,
fair.
yeah. And like rejection, it hurts,
Mm-hmm.
especially when it's an emotional rejection.
Mm-hmm.
And like, because like that's the thing, like financial rejection, like rejecting from a job or something, like that hurts. But emotional rejection, when you're invested in somebody and you basically put your heart on your sleeve for that moment, that hurts a lot more than being rejected from a job. So,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah. Because it's
but
personal. It becomes personal. It's a personal attack on who you are, or it feels like that. You should try your best not to take it that way, but it definitely
yeah.
does feel like that. And I feel like it's even like, I think the reason why, like, I wish I would have known this as a teen is because I let a lot of things slide with some of the people I was friends with that I would not let slide nowadays when it came to honesty and communication. And some of my friends were incredibly honest, but they couldn't communicate it in a mature way. And it was in a way of like, oh, they're telling me what they feel, but they can't just say it. They have to make it like, they have to make it a game. They have to make it a joke. It's like when someone jokes enough times about something, you realize they're not joking about it. And it's like, oh, you're not joking about feeling the way you do. Oh, you're not joking about this. And it's like, okay, we need to have a real conversation. And joking is a coping mechanism. It's like, it's a lot of people's way that they can talk about it. And that's totally okay. But there comes a point where someone needs to be able to say like, oh no, I'm okay. Or yeah, no, I need to talk to someone about this. Like I need to go to therapy. I need to have a conversation. And that's just important. And I also think that like a relationship aspect that I wish I would have known as a teen is the sexuality aspect of coming to terms with being bi. It's, first of all, just because you're dating a specific gender does not negate your attraction to another gender. I think that was really hard for me to grapple with because I felt like, oh, I'm in a straight presenting relationship, and so no one's going to believe me if I say I'm bi. I literally had someone say, "Are you doing it for attention?" When I told them, when I came out to them, and it was like really early in me coming to terms with my sexuality, and it felt awful to hear that from someone. And we're not friends anymore. That person and I are not friends anymore, because they were just not. They were making me feel worse about myself, not better about myself, and that's kind of how that's another thing. It's like, how do your friends make you feel? Really analyze how your friends make you feel. If they make you feel worse about yourself, you need to have a conversation with them. And if it's a you problem, you need to work on it and figure out why they make you feel that way. But sometimes it's a them problem. Sometimes they just make you feel bad. And like that especially happens, I think, with I call them like forced friendships. I don't know if that's what you would call them, but like friends that you have based around proximity, like dance friends or school friends or
see, those I wouldn't even
friends.
those are just acquaintances.
That's what they became for me.
And they're just really surface level friends. Like they're not, even if they do make it past like me being like, yeah, they're an acquaintance, they're a surface level friend because I don't become vulnerable with them and they don't become vulnerable with me.
Exactly.
Sometimes they do. But I don't become vulnerable with them.
Yeah. I think that's important to distinguish, like, okay, who is my friend because I actually really love them being in my life, and who's my friend just because they are
Yeah.
in my life?
Yeah.
Because like that's something too is like
And it's a hard distinction to make.
it is a very hard distinction to make. And like my
Mhm.
sister and I, like I would count her as a friend nowadays. Like we have bonded a lot over the last couple of years, but we weren't always that close. Like we went through rough patches, but also when um when I was a teen, it was really hard for me to separate, okay,
Mhm.
is do I like hanging out with her because she's my sister and I feel like I have to hang out with her, or do I like hanging out with her because I like hanging out with her? Nowadays, I
Mhm.
like hanging out with her because I like hanging out with her, and that's like really nice to have that. But I had so many people in my life that were the forced friend, and like I have like really amazing. Like I have like a person in my life that is still one of my like closest friends that like we don't talk super often, but like when we do, it's like immediate click, and like we just like
Mhm.
love hanging out, but we're both really busy, so we just can't hang out super frequently. She's like my only IRL friend, and I met her through dance. Like I wouldn't count her as a dance friend because don't we both quit dance around the same time, and we've stayed
Mhm.
friends since then, and it's been 6 years. And like that's when you
Mhm.
can like tell like, okay, is this person my like friend by proximity to them being, being there all the time, or are they actually my friend? Like I have friends that I went to dance with that I'm not friends with anymore. And
Mhm.
it at first I tried to like force it and was like, oh no, we're still friends, like I still want to be your friend. But it was like, no, we're not still friends. Like let's
Yeah.
be honest here, like we were only friends because we saw each other 4 times a week. Like,
Mhm.
and it's easy to like gain an attachment to someone you're just around all the time, and like
Yeah.
think, oh, this person is my best friend. It's like, are they, or are they just around you all the
Yeah.
time? And I think that's a really like, that's why it hurts so bad when people say like long distance friends are not real friends, because it's like actually they're like the most real friends, because like there's no pressure to be their friend, you just are their friend. Like, and like
Yeah.
if you can have a successful friendship long distance, I think that really does show that you like care a lot about that person, because you're willing to go out of your way to like make extra time for them and work around busy schedules
Well,
and
it's
time zone
harder.
differences. It's harder to
Yeah.
be that
It's
person's
harder to
friend.
bond with
Yeah.
them because you don't have that, as you said, like proximity. Like you can't be
Yeah.
around them. Like it's not like a, oh, let's go grab coffee kind of thing. It's you have to kind of assign time for them, and you kind of have to schedule them in, and then it's, life gets in the way, and not
Yeah.
all the time you can like log on to Discord and like have a
Yeah.
Discord call for like 20 hours.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, the golden
yeah, I
days.
definitely agree with you on those parts.
The golden days.
Honestly, being able to just log on and like play with one friend or like two friends
Hmm.
for hours
No
on end. I mean, we do
responsibilities.
that for like
Oh,
Monday, but like,
yeah. We literally we dedicate a day off to being able to have that still. And I think that's
yeah.
like, I think that's why we're best friends, is because we both have very similar like feelings about like
Hmm.
um how to maintain a long distance friendship.
Yeah.
And I think it's because we've just been friends for so long. So like we grew in the
I think
same
so.
way.
Yeah, we just kind of
Yeah.
we're
It's
just
like,
like,
oh well,
yeah,
this is a
we're gonna have the same
successful
idea.
friendship, you know? So it's like, oh, so
Yep.
this is how we maintain it, is how we've been maintaining
Yeah.
it. If there's ever like something, we communicate it. Like we're both very good at communicating with
Oh,
one
for
another and being
sure.
honest with one
For sure.
another. And that came through learning that in our teens, and like really like assessing how important we were to one another. We are and
Mhm.
were. I combined the words for some reason. To one another, and
Mhm.
like communication's hard, but it's worth it. It's so worth it if the
Yeah.
other person is worth it, you know? But yeah. So that's what I wish I would have known as a teen, is like
Mhm.
know who your friends are and know who are your acquaintances. It's okay to
Yeah.
not be friends with everyone. You can have acquaintances. It's not, you're not being mean for not calling
Yeah,
someone a
you're
best
just being
friend.
cordial. Because I
Yeah.
mean, when you get into college, you're in class with a lot of people who you
Yeah.
don't like. And
Yeah.
you're just nice to them because like, oh, I'm in class with them, I might have to do a project with them. Like you're just okay with them. You don't like them, but you're okay being around them.
Yeah.
And I think that also goes into acceptance. because a lot of times when you're younger, you want to be accepted
Mm-hmm.
completely by people. And that's also something I think would go into relationships for me, is understanding that nobody owes you and you don't owe it to anyone to completely accept them. Because
Mm-hmm.
if you don't like something about a person and you're like, hey, that's kind of toxic for me to be around, I'm going to distance myself. Or if that's the
Yeah.
same thing, if somebody feels that about you, it's be like, okay, I can't accept that about you, like being in my life. I'm gonna have to distance myself. And you can be respectful about it. You don't have to be like,
Oh, you're a toxic
all names
person.
and
Blah blah blah.
yeah.
Yeah.
But I think when you're young, again, rejection, but being able to identify that it's not owed to you,
Yeah.
and being able to put that boundary up and being like, okay, this might hurt a person, but it's what I have to do for myself.
Yeah.
And then if the other person does that to you, you have to be able to realize, like, okay, that's probably best for
Yeah.
them as a person. Um, so yeah, I would say that.
Yeah. Let yourself let people go if they want to leave.
Yeah, yeah,
Don't be desperate for them to stay in your life. If they leave, then they want to leave. And that's
yeah.
okay. Like you'll find a friend who doesn't want to leave. And I think that's really important. It's like it feels like oh, no one wants to be my friend. It's like no. No, someone will want to be your friend and someone won't want to leave your
Mhm.
side and someone
And
will be
even
that
even going into
eventually.
boyfriends, girlfriends, like just
Yeah.
relationships, like romantic, if you're not successful, quote unquote successful, I'm doing air quotes if you're just
Yeah.
listening, um, in love, I use love really loosely in teenage years, like
Yeah.
really
Cuz it's
loosely.
like you're learning how to love in your teenage years. You
Mhm.
don't know.
And you're learning what love is, because I'm
Yeah.
gonna be honest, a lot of I'm not saying all, but a lot of teen relationships are on lust
Mhm.
more, and like a built-in friend kind of connection
Yeah.
more so than love. Now, granted, sometimes there are cases like you and your boyfriend where it is like, you were really young and you guys fell in love and you guys
Yeah.
actually had a real genuine love. So I'm not saying that like across the board, but I'm just
Yeah.
saying a lot of it.
Yeah.
Um and being okay with not being quote unquote loved in high school, because honestly, I did not date in high school. I wanted that connection. As I said, I was a pick me girl, so I was desperate for it. But I'm glad I never got it
Yeah.
because I was able to grow and learn adjacent from somebody, and I was able to fully figure that out for myself
Mhm.
without having to grow off of a person. And if you have to grow off of somebody, like if you have to go through that experience and, you know, realize that for yourself, then that's your journey. That's how you're going to
Yeah.
find that out. But yeah, I would definitely say that that's something else that I wish I knew about.
Yeah.
The relationship years.
Yeah.
Because
100%.
a girly wanted a relationship, but one just never worked out for her. And then I felt also another thing. When you're young, you feel like since you don't date in high school, that you're never going to be attractive in the real world. That was a
Mhm.
fear.
Because,
I
okay,
say real
everyone
with a
talks
joke.
about it being like the glory days, but honestly, high school is the most stressful, the most like all over the place. Hormones skyrocketing, crazy time of
Yeah.
your life. If you peak in high school, you do not peak in high school. You should always, like, in my opinion, if you felt like you peaked in high school, listen. If there's any on the other end of the spectrum, not being a teen, but being a little older than we are, and you felt like you peaked in high school,
Mhm.
it's not too late. You can have a
It's
better
not
life
too
in
late.
your
Yeah.
adult
It's
life.
not too
Like
late.
it's
And
never
that's
too late
also
to
a
make
thing.
your adult life better than your high school years. It truly
And
is
that's
not that
also a
hard.
thing is like, I'm not going to bash anybody,
Hmm.
but I'm going to be honest here. Very honest. I'm brutally honest.
Okay.
A lot of the friend groups I was in, I use friend groups loosely, quotation marks.
Yeah.
I was used as the ugly friend in high school because
That's
everybody
impossible.
peaked in high school physically, right? And I was still growing into my body, my face, like,
You were
I
always
was
beautiful to me.
awkward looking. Oh yeah.
Literally,
Like,
you were never awkward looking, in my opinion. But I think that's also just because
we were so close.
I loved you.
Yeah.
I love you so much. You know that it's like
Yeah.
I just never. I could never. Also, I
And
was
like
jealous
that's
of
the
you.
thing of
Like
like,
we were jealous of each other a
yeah,
little bit when we were younger.
yeah. Because we
But
idolize each other because it
yeah,
was, like we were like each other's closest connection.
yeah.
But no, like, and I've talked about this I think a couple of times, maybe not on the podcast, I think just like adjacently. But growing up as the ugly friend in friend groups really gives you a different perspective of when people peak in high school, especially physically, and then you grow up, you do kind of have that complex of like, oh, okay, maybe I'm not as attractive as I think, or all that. But a lot of times your teenage brain is being really mean to you, and you were just growing up.
Yeah.
Like that was it. Like, if you're like, oh, I have like baby fat on my face, it's like, oh, well, you're gonna look young until you're like in the grave.
Yeah.
It's like your body was still like filling out. Okay, well, you were a teen, you're not supposed to be looking like a full woman at that point,
Yeah.
And if your face was looking a little awkward, your face grows before the rest of your body catches up. So
Yeah.
it's looking a little funky on everybody.
I felt really like unattractive in my own eyes as a teenager, and now I look back and I'm like, I was so adorable. Why did I feel that way about myself?
I was cute. Yeah.
Yeah.
When I was younger and I was unaware of that, like I'm talking like 13, 14, and I was unaware of everything, like just the judgment and being the ugly friend in like other people's eyes. I was so cute, but the moment I started trying to change how I looked, how I dressed, how I did my hair, makeup, all that to please other people, I then became like that awkward stage of like, oh, okay, you're not as cute as you once were.
Yeah, because it was you trying to fit into another. Yeah, I was trying. You were trying to fit into a cookie cutter mold that just didn't fit you. Because you're better than them.
I was just in my cocoon, and now I'm a butterfly.
Yeah.
Some might say I'm moth, but I'm a butterfly.
No, they're moths. You're a butterfly. Yeah.
But yeah. So I would say that as like advice of like the peaked into high school kids.
Yeah.
Or adults. Or kids that are now adults.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you are scared of the fact that you're not dating a bunch of people or the sexiest person in high school, the most popular in high school, it's like,
trust me, and I'm gonna say this, it's gonna mean nothing when you're an adult.
It is.
Like, okay, your grades and your extracurricular activities, if you want to go to college, mean a lot. But other than that, everybody forgets it.
Yeah.
Like, oh, if you were the quarterback in high school, okay, that's not gonna matter in a job.
It's gonna be sad if a 30-year-old man is like, I was the quarterback in high school.
Yeah.
What have you done since then, though?
You're like the most popular person, always going to parties. Okay, well, in an adult's eyes, I was like, okay, you're irresponsible and reckless in high school.
Yeah. It's like,
so it translates differently from like high school brain to adult brain.
If you are a popular kid in high school and you're like, wait, is this the peak for me? No. Just don't make high school everything about you.
Full identity.
And and you'll be fine. Just when you get out of high school, be excited for the future, not dreading the fact that you're graduating. Because that's the thing. I see so many people. Okay, this is just a me thing.
Graduation just happened for a lot of them.
Yeah,
a lot of high schoolers just happened.
Yeah. I was in a unique situation. You and I were in unique situations because COVID happened during when we were in high school, and so we didn't have like the typical high school experience as it is. Also, I was homeschooled, so it's like even more different than the average high school experience. I did out of home classes, so I had like a high school experience, but it wasn't like a typical high school experience. Because of that, it's like, obviously I'm not one to say this say like, oh, this is how you should feel. But for me personally, I was just excited to be done with high school. I wasn't like,
I was excited to have a new thing.
I'm not gonna be able to see my friends anymore. Again, they were proximity friends. I really like the only person that I was like, oh, I wish I'm still friends with them. They literally popped up in my stream the other day and were like, oh my god, wait, I know you from high school. Like we should hang out and like get like coffee and like catch up. I was like, okay, cool. Like I like
Mhm.
the relationships that you're like worried about like fizzling out when you guys go to college. It's kind of like it kind of goes into the whole like long distance relationship thing of like, if it's worth it, you'll make it work. Like if you are
Yeah.
meant to be friends with that person, try your best to be friends with that person, and it'll work if it's supposed to work. If it doesn't, it
Mhm.
was just not, it wasn't meant to be. Not at this
Yeah.
time, at least, you know? Like, maybe in the future you'll rekindle or whatever, but like, it's just like, remember there's always going to be new people that you're going to meet and that you're going
Mhm.
to grow bonds with. And like, I know so many people that they met their best friends in college. They met their best
Yeah.
friends after college. Like they met their best friends through being a mom, like through being a mom in
Yeah.
like a Lamaze class. Like it's like there's so many different ways to meet the people that
Uh,
are going to be your chosen family, like the people that are
yeah.
closest to you in life. And I know like you and I, we found each other very young. But
We were
it's like,
younger than most, I think.
yeah,
Would find their best
but
friends.
it's we got very lucky in that regard. But
Yeah.
I know if we would have met today, we would have clicked and we would have been friends.
Oh yeah,
So just because
for
you didn't
sure.
meet your person, your best friend person, at a young age or in high school or in your teen years or whatever,
Mhm.
does not mean you're not going to meet them ever. You're going to meet them eventually. As long as you're putting yourself out there in any way, shape, or form, then you're going to meet them when you're supposed to meet them. And like,
Yeah.
I think if we would have met sooner, we wouldn't have been able to be friends because we weren't in the same world. If we would have met
Yeah.
when we were even younger, like
Yeah. No.
we lived so far away from each other. It's like, how would we have met earlier? You know, it's
We were
like,
so far away, and I wasn't into any of the same things you were into at the
yeah,
time. 'Cause again, like I grew up in a desert, so
yeah,
video games were like kind of scarce, or if you did want to play them, it's like when it's really hot outside, which is like a couple months a year. So
yeah, yeah.
it wasn't
But
like a big thing.
yeah. Okay, so what was our next topic we want to talk about? A
I think it
category?
was I think it was
Relationships, and then
relationships, emotion, and then
okay,
like adult life, like life
okay,
advice. I
like
guess.
so
Like just
things
overall
for
life
them to know
advice.
in advance.
Yeah.
Okay, so for the emotions side of everything,
I already touched on a couple of it, but I
yeah,
would say learn how to deal with rejection
mm-hmm,
was a big one.
yeah,
And then learning to accept yourself and not seek it from others.
mm,
That's a big thing.
yeah,
Um, and that's just for everyone. Like you don't even have to be a team. Like everybody, learn to accept yourself before trying to get it from somebody else because it's always going to be false and it's actually
yeah,
going to leave you feeling worse about
yeah,
yourself.
yeah,
Because if that person's not in your life or if that person, you know, decides, oh, okay, I don't really like you anymore, then you're going to be stuck with nothing.
yeah. The first step to being able to be loved by others is to love yourself. And
Mhm.
like, you're never gonna really, in my opinion,
Like the
obviously,
Justin Bieber song.
allegedly,
Love yourself.
yeah, you should go and love yourself. Um, if, in my opinion, if you are struggling to feel loved by those around you, it's probably because you don't see yourself as lovable. That's a really hard pill to swallow. That's a really tough thing to come to terms with. And
Yeah.
honestly, I didn't come to terms with that as a teen. I came to terms with that as a young adult. Like I'm still coming to terms with that feeling and like truly
I
being able to
started
love
not
myself.
caring.
Mhm.
And I think that's different. I didn't really come to terms with it in the traditional sense. I just stopped fully caring,
Mhm.
which, again, some people, everybody has different journeys on how they realize things or come to terms with things. But I would say if you are in that stage of not caring and just saying, I don't care about anything, don't stay in that phase for too long because you want to care about something. Because if you just go your whole life being like, I don't care, then you're going to miss a lot of opportunities as well.
Mhm. Yeah.
So I'll say that. And another emotional one. This is gonna be a little bit more of a funny one.
Okay.
For any of the period ovulation girlies, especially in high school.
Anyone with a uterus? Listen
Yeah.
up.
in high school, don't use your period as an excuse to be a bitch. This might just be me for personal experience, but if you get into that habit and then try to use that in the real world, granted, there are times my periods are really rough, and I'm just like, I am mean. Like, I cannot socialize with anybody. I am just mean. So learn to be able to identify that and then kind of reel that in.
Yeah.
And maybe even that's just being like, hey, I can't talk today. I'm really just
I need some space. I'm going through it right now. Like,
yeah, and then just be able to tell people that and then just be by yourself, right?
mm-hmm.
But and I grew up around this, a lot of people used it as a way to just be mean.
It's a way to deflect, yeah.
Yeah. And I would say don't get into a habit of that because that translates into adult world is really horrible.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very rude awakening. So I would just say be comfortable with being like, hey, I'm on my lady time, my Shark Week. I really don't want to communicate with anybody right now because I'm scared I'm going to be written up for aggressive language.
Yeah. Literally, it's as easy as just communicating like, hey, I am in pain right now, and so I'm really bad at regulating my tone and regulating my immediate reactions to things. So I would appreciate a little bit of space right now. I'll let you know when I feel better.
Yeah.
As easy as that. And then you're not saying like, oh, sorry I said that I felt shitty. It's like,
yeah,
before you even are able to say it, disclaimer to those around you, I'm in pain right now.
Because that also is a thing, like if it does happen by accident, it's not a reoccurring accident, so people will be more inclined to be like, oh, okay, like, you know, I completely understand, like all that. So it's kind of like the boy who cried wolf story. Is like if you say that too many times, when you actually
no one's gonna believe you.
No one's gonna believe you, and they're just gonna be like, okay, you're just being a bitch, and then you're gonna be titled as that, and then nobody's gonna want to be friends with you.
Yeah, 100%.
So, yeah,
that's something that's very important.
That's like a little side note, like, but an emotional one. Yeah, and then also develop yourself emotionally adjacent from your friends.
Elaborate on that.
If you have a really close friend or a friend group, right? You tend to want to develop the same way, especially in like teen years, because you want to stay in that group, stay in that connection. So a lot of times people will emotionally develop the same as their friend. And sometimes that doesn't work for you. And so I would say if your friend is developing in a way, let's say socially, right? Like how they handle themselves in a social environment, and you try and emulate that. Sometimes that's how you can operate socially, but other times it's not. It's almost like like a facade that you put on. And I would say that's kind of what I mean by develop yourself adjacent from your friends emotionally. Don't fully, it's going to sound kind of bad. Don't fully read into your friend's development. Because
especially in your teens. 100%.
Yeah, because you might start to take on those developments and they might not be for you.
Yeah.
So
100%.
Yeah.
I think for me, the biggest advice I could give emotionally to teen Izzie is other people's emotions aren't your responsibility.
Yeah.
And that was really hard for me to learn. And I've learned that. Like, I have to remind myself sometimes, like, hey, remember, that's not your responsibility. You're not anyone's therapist. You're not anyone's emotional vomit bag. You're not, like, you do not exist to be given others burdens. You exist to maybe lighten the mood a little bit, but that's not why you exist. Your existence has nothing to do with what you provide for others. And your worthiness has nothing to do with what you provide for others. Now, is it nice to be able to listen to your friend vent? Yes, 100%. It's going to make your friend feel heard, but it's not your responsibility to carry their burdens with you.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's an important distinction. You can let people vent to you, but let it be left there afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
Don't hold on to it. A lot of times people would vent to me. Family members, friends would vent to me about stuff going on in their life, and obviously I want to help them because I'm their friend. Like, that's just, I care about them. But there's a difference between caring about someone and giving them advice that they can take if they want to, or they can leave it, and them respecting that advice and being like, okay, yeah, like I get where you're coming from. Thank you for giving me advice. And then them, if they don't take that advice, they're at least doing something to try to work on it, right? There's a difference between that and then them being like, yeah, but I just want to complain to you. If you're
Mm-hmm.
not able to if you're not able to let go of others' emotions, that's okay. Communicate that. Communicate, I'm not in a mental space to be able to take what you're going through right now onto
Yeah,
myself.
for sure.
It's also okay to listen to other people's worries and problems and stuff, and then be like, okay, what do you want to do to fix that? Like, are you doing anything to fix that, or do you just want to get this out? Like, do you just want to say it to feel better? And being able to like say that, and then if they come back and they're like complain about the same thing, you'd be like, okay, again, are you just wanting to talk about this, or do you want me to give you advice? Because it seems to be a repeated problem.
Mm-hmm.
Having that open communication, and if some people just can't listen to that, like I've had family members that have talked to me, and like I'm like, okay, you just want me to feel bad for you. Like, you don't actually want, you're not, this isn't making you feel better. You are just, you like the attention that being pitied by me gives you. And it really, like, it hurts because I'm like, what if I'm hurting their feelings by saying this? But like, it's really important to be able to put like a boundary up of like, hey, like I understand that you're hurting right now, but like I can't handle hearing your, like, I can't handle hearing your problems on top of hearing my own inner dialogue of problems right now. Like, my own problems are too much right now. I can't handle someone else's problems on top of that.
Yeah.
That's important to be able to communicate. And as a people pleaser, you know, I grew up as a people pleaser. It was very hard to differentiate letting someone down from someone being mad at me. Because someone can be disappointed that it didn't go the way they expected it to. That's totally okay to be disappointed in the fact that it turned out differently than you expected it, and you now have to like readjust your expectations. It's totally okay to feel disappointed. But there's a difference between that and someone being like, oh, well, you're a bad friend because you aren't 24/7 my therapist. Oh, how come you're not talking to me as much? It's also like, if there's a friend that only ever talks to you to vent, that's not your responsibility to be that person's therapist.
Therapists. That's why therapists.
That's why
literally
therapists exist. That's literally what a therapist does. And as we both were the ex-therapist friends, you don't have to be someone's therapist. You do not have to be someone's therapist for them to like you, for them to be your friend. There are plenty of people out there that, sure, they might vent to you occasionally, but they will not only talk to you when they need to talk about heavy shit. Like, if someone's only ever talking to you to talk about how awful their life is, it's like, okay, this is a very one-sided relationship, and I'm carrying all your burdens with me, and you walk away feeling fine, but I walk away feeling so much worse. This is not a mutually beneficial relationship. And relationships are a two-way road. It's give and take, not just give. So it's important to be able to cut people out of your life that treat you like you're their therapist, or communicate with them. And if they're not willing to hear you out, then figure out what you need to do about that. But you know, I've been through that so many times that it's like all ages need to hear this advice. Like no matter what age you are,
it's not just that. I think like a lot of this advice is like could be used in multiple different stages of life. But yeah, no, 110% agree.
Yeah. It's just like you need to be able to also, figure out where the boundary is.
Yeah. And just like being able to say no.
Yes, no is a full sentence.
Like, yeah, it's just like
you don't have to defend yourself.
I need to vent this to you. No, I can't right now.
Yeah,
I can't hear that right now.
That's another thing is like this is something I'm still working on, is like sounding rude when I'm just communicating how I feel.
That's the people pleaser, and it's also because you don't want to be, I think we said this in an episode, it sounds familiar, a villain in someone else's story.
Yeah. We've talked about like how you can't help but be someone else's villain. You're just, it's a canon event.
Yeah, and like I'm probably a lot of people's villains. I know I'm at least 10. I'm at least 10 people's villains.
Yeah.
Which I'm glad, because I hope they better themselves. I don't know. I don't check up on them. We're not on speaking terms. But yeah, you know most of those 10 people. Yeah. So it's a hard pill to swallow, but I think it's needed for other people's development, because, you know, you pass through so many people's lives, and you have to also be able to protect your peace before you're trying to help somebody else's.
Yeah, if your cup's empty, you can't fill someone else's.
Exactly.
Take care of yourself first. I think that's it for the emotions.
Okay. Now, I don't know if we can like really like elaborate a lot on the lifestyle, like life phases one, but like just the PowerPoints of it. Is kind of, I'm thinking.
Yeah, bullet point.
I wish I learned about taxes. Bro.
Oh, 100%.
Taxes in high school, I wish I learned about that. Whether that be independently, a class, asking my parents about it more. I wish I learned about taxes more. Yeah. I wish I knew about interviews, like job interviews, a lot more. Like how to do one, how to conduct one, how to get one, right? And then also insurance. I know these are like boring topics. That's why it's like the end of the episode. Insurance.
Yeah, no, 100%. I would say the top things. Budgeting, taxes, and taking care of your belongings and yourself.
Yeah.
Because like, you know, I don't think a lot of people realize how much there's to take care of when you move out on your own. And there's absolutely no one to keep you accountable for it. And so it's like, you need to like, I feel like you need to be like weaned rather than just like shoved out the door and been like, okay, good luck. It's like, it's
kind of what dorming at college does for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Is because they're not completely on their own. They're on their own, but they have some guides here and there.
Yeah, this was like a community of other people going through the same thing. I get that. I think my version of that was just like, I guess like because I'm very lucky that I have a good relationship with my family. I think my family did a good job about like, my mom would literally offer, she'd be like, I know you live on your own, but like, do you want me to come over and like help you fold laundry? Or like, do you want me to come over and like teach you to cook this thing that I used to cook when you were a kid? Like, that's something that I'm incredibly grateful that I had. And I want to like, I know that not everyone has that. And that's almost, I think that's why I'm an incredibly maternal person naturally, is because of how my mom is with me. I want to be that for other people that don't have that.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of to a fault a little bit. But I genuinely, like, I have some friends that, like, when they moved out, they did not have that. And I'm like, do you want me to teach you this recipe that I know that's, like, super easy? Do you want me to be like a body double and like keep you accountable for doing chores? Like, do you want me to like I offer those types of things because I went through that when I first moved out. Like, I get it. And that it's an incredibly important thing to be able to take care of yourself and your belongings. And in my opinion, I think that when you're a teen, I think that you and we started kind of like being pretty independent around like 15, 16.
Mm-hmm.
And we weren't really reliant on our families that much. Like we obviously we live with them. Like we were still like kids, but like I feel like we definitely were in the mindset of like
what to do all the time.
Yes.
We kind of were able to govern ourselves with that a little bit more.
Yeah.
Than having to be reminded all the time or having to have like a chore list someone else writes up for you, you know? Yeah, I would definitely agree with that one too.
Yeah. So that's important, is to like the main thing is like cleaning for me. That's something that took me a long time to learn, is like I've always been a clean person.
Buying impulses. When you're an adult and you get adult money, don't give into those buying impulses.
See, I think I have the opposite problem, but I know that it's mostly people have they give into adult impulses. I have the opposite where I hoard my money and I don't spend it on anything, and then suddenly I'm like, oh, I need a new vacuum. Oh, I haven't bought myself new soap in like a month because I've been just like putting water in it to keep using it because I don't want to buy something for myself. It's like, I can afford to buy myself soap. I can afford to buy a vacuum. Like, these are things that like improve my life, that I was like, oh, but I don't want to spend money. It's like, you have the money to spend. It's okay. Like, it's a necessity. And so I think rather than like, oh, don't do impulse buys, don't also don't like not buy yourself like, anything. Find a good middle ground. Like,
go to the middle.
Treat yourself like occasionally, but like
if you're seeing like you aren't buying yourself necessities or things that are like needed for a functioning household, then you need to probably buy a bit more. But if you're seeing you are buying everything you see, that might be a little bit of a problem.
I think the reason I'm the way I am is because of my dad, because he's the type that it's like, oh, you should buy yourself a new belt, Dad. Like, your belt is falling apart. He's like, but it works. That's the mindset I have a lot of the time. But I've been better about like, okay, I've been really good. Like, I've been working really hard. I deserve to buy myself, some nice skincare. Like, I deserve to buy myself a new outfit, blah, blah, blah. Like, I just went shopping for new clothes for the first time in like 3 years. Like, an actual like shopping deal, not just like, oh, this is cute, I'm gonna pick it up, like an actual like, oh, I need new clothes, like my old clothes are not cutting it anymore. And that was something that was really like therapeutic for me, is like being able to be like, I'm able to buy this. And now it does not mean I'm going on a shopping spree every single fucking week. Like, this again was after years of not spending like any money really on clothes for myself. It's just like, it's gonna have balance. Everything in life needs balance, and I think that's I think that's the biggest piece of advice. I think that's the biggest thing I wish I knew as a teen. Balance. Balance is important, but that comes with work and life, that comes with relationships, that comes with everything comes down to balance. Wow. Yeah. But anyways,
even sleeping too much is bad.
Yeah, sleeping too much is bad. Sleeping too little is bad. Like, it's just like drinking too much water is bad. Drinking not enough water is bad. It's like, you just need to find balance. Eating too little is bad. Eating too much is bad. It just listen to your body and your bank account.
Now, too much money, I don't think could ever be bad. Personally.
But see,
but that's just me.
That's just me. That's just me, though. But like, here's the thing. At that point, taxes. So it's all about figuring how to make your money.
Afford the taxes.
But here's the thing. It's all about how to make this is the entrepreneur talking. It's all about how to make your money not only work for you so you can do less work to still make money, but make your money help not only you, but like those around you. In my opinion, like charity and stuff like that is important, especially if you're like, A
Which also I did not know,
billionaire.
but owning a horse is an agricultural write-off. And when I become rich and famous one day, maybe not famous, but rich, I want to have a horse. Not with a write-off, but I want to own a horse.
Really?
I love horses.
Huh.
Always have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My sister thought
Side
about getting
note, this is a
chickens
really
because
good
they're a
topic.
tax write-off.
See, I
I could
can't
never do
stand
chickens. Yeah, I hate chickens.
I think it's because I know that they eat themselves. They're cannibals. That's
They have ticks. That's what I don't
think-
like about them.
I think that's why. But granted, a horse, I have to learn a lot to care for a horse because that is
Yeah.
a
You also need
big
land
animal.
for a horse.
Oh, you need a lot of land and a
You
lot of
can't-
time
Can come move,
and a lot of
bestie?
extra money for them. So
Yeah, my parents' neighbors have horses, and they're really pretty, and they like that's
Yeah.
cool. I don't want a horse. My mom grew up having a horse. Like she, as a teenager, had a horse because she lived on like a piece of land, like the bougie motherfucker she was and
Yeah.
is currently, I guess. But yeah, no, she grew up in like the slumps of Miami in a massive piece of land. Now it's not there. It's gone now.
Yeah. See, I grew up in the desert, either riding a horse in the middle of the desert or
purr.
riding a horse across a semi-private beach. So
Sounds so mystical.
it was, and then it took me to a cave with glowworms in it, and my mom got really scared because I was like 5 years old on a horse by myself, without a guide, and
The fuck?
way ahead of her, and then the horse just went into the glow cave. I guess it because it knew its like tour trail,
Path?
it just normally went on the path.
Oh, it was like a tour
But-
thing.
Yeah.
Okay. That makes more sense. I was
I mean,
like,
that
the fuck
horse
this
knew.
horse doing?
But the horse also like listened to me. So if I wanted it to go somewhere else, it would have.
Yeah, it's
It was
like
very rebellious. The horse was.
it's kind of like those donkeys that go along the Grand Canyon. They always know their trail, even if there's no humans with them. They just keep going. 'Cause
I would
they
say
know what
that's
they're
like the
supposed
most
to do.
boring life for a donkey, though.
I know, just walking
I
up
think
and
it's
down
a
the Grand
mule.
Canyon.
Is it a mule? I think
constantly.
it's mule.
I don't know. I saw them in
think
person. They
it's a
shit all over the pathways, but
Oh yeah, no, they do that. Camels are worse though.
they spit.
Yeah, I don't think. See, I rode camels a lot. And they're disgusting and mean. I've only ever met one nice camel, and it was the one I was riding. Actually, she was really nice. Her name was Lucy. Loved her.
Lucy. Oh.
But all the other camels, mean as hell, and they smell, and they're just like gross in general. Camel
Ugh.
hate. But
Hashtag we hate camels. Wow.
yeah, and there's a reason why I say like camel toes, and like that's like a bad thing, and like that's because camels honestly just everything about a camel.
Yeah.
Also, I did not know this about them. They are incredibly aggressive towards humans. A lot of the time.
Interesting.
Unless it's like trained out of them from like a young age.
I mean, they are wild animals. Like they were.
Yeah.
And then they got domesticated. So,
Yeah.
yeah, ish. Not really. They're not actually
Yeah.
fully domesticated, I guess.
I think they just became comfortable with like, oh, you feed me? Okay, we'll stay.
Yeah. Like cats.
Yeah.
Like
Cats only really became domesticated because humans had grain, and they were like, oh,
And they're
grain,
not even
nice.
fully domesticated, which is so funny to
No.
me. Like, because like
They just stay
dogs,
because of food.
dogs have been domesticated for so much longer. I think a lot of people
don't
forget
understand why
that.
they
That's the
domesticated.
reason why dogs are so much more like, you know, man's best
Man's
friend
best
vibes.
friend. Yeah,
Which-
they don't say that about cats.
Yeah, which
They don't say that.
witch's best friend, I guess, is the closest because they're familiars in a lot of like tellings
Yeah.
of witches, I guess. But which I'm a cat person personally, but
Yeah.
I do like
And
dogs
see,
too,
some
though.
cats
I'm
have
allergic to
dog-ish
them, so.
personalities. So
Mhm.
you
Yeah.
get that, but
True. Anyways,
yeah, no. If you own like ferrets, you're wild for that because they're not even domesticated.
ferrets are so cute. They're really hard to take care of, though. Like, don't just get a ferret
Mhm.
just because you see one at Petco. Like, they need a buddy
Yeah.
and they need a lot of
They
enrichment.
need friends.
Yeah.
and they need a big
They're not a
space.
pet. They're
and
a
they need
wild
special
animal.
food.
Like, they're an exotic pet. They need. I
Mhm.
want a ferret so bad, but like, I could not take care of them
My
properly,
cat
and
would
I'm not gonna. They would be depressed. They would be so depressed being my pet, and I'm very self aware of that. And I'm not selfish, so I'm not gonna be getting a ferret. There's
Seem like
a
a
streamer I watch who's a game developer named Pirate Software, and he wants to start a rescue. Well, he has a rescue, but he wants to like make it bigger and stuff for ferrets and stuff because they get abused a lot, and so he rescues them and like treats them the way they're supposed to be treated, which is really sweet. He has like a whole ferret room right now, and he wants to make like a building like rescue.
Yeah.
I know.
I couldn't imagine having that many ferrets.
It's a lot, but it's also really cute. They're really cute. They're really
ferrets
cute.
Are interesting. They're interesting little animals.
They're little
but
noodles.
Like again,
they're so cute.
They're terrors.
Because here's the thing, they're not terrors if they're given enough enrichment. It's like they literally are like, I'm going fucking crazy because you're not playing with me enough, so I'm going to wreak havoc.
Yeah,
which like good for them.
Again, it's also it just also depends on like how much you can give them, but a lot of times they're not really meant for people who aren't experienced exotic pet owners.
Well, yeah, I don't in my opinion exotic pets are like, there's a way you have to be incredibly willing to learn if you're gonna have an exotic pet. It's like,
yeah, like, you know, take classes before you own one.
Exactly
Just be responsible about it, because you know a lot of times their behaviors, you'll be like, oh, this is a bad behavior, when really it's just their natural behavior.
Yeah.
And if you're not aware of that, then it can be a little difficult for you and the little baby that you're taking care of.
No, exactly. But anyways, we're gonna go ahead and wrap up the episode here.
Yes.
Thank you guys so much for watching or listening.
We kind of rambled and just talked about it all today.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
I hope you guys enjoyed.
Yeah.
Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and give us a 5-star rating on all of our podcast streaming platforms, except for Apple. So sorry, Apple.
Yeah, sorry, Apple. Actually, no. Fuck you, Apple.
Honestly, Apple. Did you know Apple censors cuss words on their music a lot of the time, and like you have to like go in and like uncensor? Yeah,
that's
a thing.
Wild.
Like Sabrina Carpenter's song, I forgot which one it was, but she says like the F word, and she says like bitch, and it's censored, and I'm like,
it's weird. They do the clean version by default. It's really weird.
Yeah,
it could never be on Spotify. Anyway, it's the dark side.
No, Spotify is just everything. Spotify will give you.
They recently added chapters to Spotify, so like you can like break up. So, like, Am I the Assholes? You could have each story separated as chapters. Isn't that cool?
Oh, it's nice.
I know.
So you can like skip to one and like pause it. And, like,
exactly.
It's nice.
Yeah. Or if like there's like a trigger warning for one story, you can skip to the next one right away.
Yeah.
Which is so nice. That's kind of what I do on our deals. I give them the timestamp so that they can skip to the next story. But now there's chapters. You know,
that's
even easier.
Yeah.
But
it's even easier. But yeah, make sure to I want to know this week's. What do we want to know from them? To comment. We want to know if you have any similar experiences.
Yeah, and what advice you have for teenagers if you are a teenager or if you're an adult,
and if you own a ferret. I don't know.
if you have a ferret, let us know what their name is, because I love ferrets. Here's the thing. I would be down to like volunteer at a ferret rescue. I don't want to own a ferret though. You know?
Yeah.
I would love to play with ferrets though and take care of a ferret.
I'm very much like a cat dog person, and then like a farm animal, like a horse or like a cow. Like I can see that.
I'm a farm girl, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I could be a farm girl. Now, my boyfriend, I don't think he could be a farmer, but he can be convinced.
I know a farmer, a Canadian farmer. Okay. You know who I'm talking about too. Yeah, it's like we need tips and tricks. Just ask him.
Low key, it's just like I forget about all the states in the middle of America, right? All the middle states I forget about, and then Canada, I barely think about Canada. Low key, really? No hate. I love Canada.
I think about Canada quite a bit, but I think that's because I have multiple friends from Canada.
See, I don't.
Also, I want to go to Quebec.
But now I'm on the other side. Europe, bunch of different friends from Europe.
Oh, I only have like 2 or 3 friends from Europe. I think.
Yeah,
I have a lot of fans in Asia. I have a lot of fans in Asia, which is fun. So
yeah. But anyways,
we'll talk to you guys later. Thank you guys for being here. I'll see you guys next Tuesday. Goodbye.